Alright guys, and happy Halloween. This is a long play review for Ghouls N Ghosts on the Amstrad CPC. And this was released by US Gold in 1989. And then later re-released on the Kicks budget label. And of course, it's a conversion of the arcade game from Capcom. The Capcom game came out in the arcades in December 8, 1988 apparently. And as always, when we're doing an arcade conversion review on the Amstrad, we're going to take a look at the arcade version first, as something to compare it with and see how the Amstrad conversion fares. There's the arcade cabinet in all its glory. So let's boot up the arcade version. And here's the intro sequence, and the story this time sees our hero King Arthur once more on a quest to rescue his girlfriend and restore the souls stolen by Lucifer. 3 years since, shouldn't that be 3 years later? And sorry, yes, his girlfriend and princess is called the Princess Prin Prin. So he's returning back to his village there. We see the rest of the intro sequence once we put a credit in. Oh no, poor Princess Prin Prin. But apparently she's not dead, it's her soul that's been stolen by Lucifer. So off we go. As you can see, it's a big step up on the graphics front from the original game, because this is a sequel to Ghosts'N Goblins, which I looked at in my last video. And some really nice graphical touches and presentation. Obviously this is 4 years after the original. A lot had moved on by 1988 and 89. Pay attention to sort of the level layout, the sort of sprite designs, the pickups and other little surprises. Very nice music as well. Okay, we've just picked up a special suit of armour there, and if you hold down the fire button, you get a special attack. And there's lots of different weapons, and with the special suit of armour, you can get different things. For example, that one there, it gives a shield if you've got the discus type thing there. My favourite is the small little knives that basically clone another Arthur, so you got double the firepower. And yeah, we'll just show you the sort of the highlights of the first level, and the key moments. There's me losing my suit of armour, and then of course you run around in your pants until you find another suit of armour. And if you remember in the Ghosts'N Goblins conversion, there was instant death on the Amstrad version. No running around in your pants, sadly. Okay, and we're getting quite close to the end of the first level here. And the end of level boss encounter. There's basically about 5 levels in total in the arcade version, with a sort of final 6th level. And in the arcade version you have to, once you got to the end of level 5, you have to do it all again, but picking up a special weapon. But anyway, that's the arcade version. Onto the Amstrad one, and here's a nice loading screen someone did for the CPC Plus computers. But we're looking at the normal version. Otherwise, we're quite a terrible loading screen on the original release, not the hacked one. So here we are on the title screen. Programmed by Dean Belfield. He also did, I think, Gauntlet 3 and the rather good Sly Spy. Part of Software Creations. Did quite a few games, sort of US Gold. Won a couple for Ocean, I think, as well. Graphics by John Tatlock and Ben Jackson. They all seem to work on similar things like Gauntlet 3, The Final Quest. Obviously, Ghouls N Ghosts. And some excellent music from Tim Follin. I'll at the end of the video you can listen to that in full. It's really, really good. So here we go, and we're starting off on the first level, and it looks pretty crap if I'm honest with you. The level layout is pretty much the same, but it's very, very stripped down and rather basic looking. Decent animation on the sprites, but and they move nice and quickly and fluidly. That's very, very important. Gameplay is most important, and you can run and jump and shoot rather nicely. So they got that right. It's just the King Arthur sprite looks really crap. There's no music in game, and the sound effects are rather sparse and not very good. Oh, we've just picked up a special suit of armour there, and there you go. That's me just using my special weapon with the super armour. And it's worth destroying all the sort of caskets you come across. The more you destroy, the more likely you'll get a special pickup like that. Or a new weapon. Sometimes they reveal evil magicians that like turn you into an old man or a duck. I think it's just the knife weapon. That's what we wanted. That's what we're going to keep throughout this game. But we don't want the axe weapon, thank you very much, because it sort of flies up at an angle, so it can be quite awkward to sort of target enemies. But with the special weapon, with the knife weapon, we get a clone of Arthur, which means we get a better spread of attacks and almost sort of double the firepower, really. And you'll find that this will make the game a lot easier if you can hold on to it. And we're coming onto the section here where we're sort of running against the wind and the rain, against these really, really annoying, I don't know what they are, sort of giant bats or something. Be very, very careful in this section. It's very easy to sort of lose a life or lose your armour. And yes, unlike the Ghosts'N Goblins conversion on the Amstrad, if you do get hit, you do actually lose your armour and run around in your pants. Yes. That's that discus thing, but we don't want to use that, so we'll carry on. But the levels do feel rather sort of sparse and barren at times, just from the lack of detail in the backgrounds and things like that. And without any real music and much sound effects, it feels a very hollow and barren experience. But they've tried to cram as much as the arcade into the conversions on the 8-bits as possible. Amstrad's version loses out a lot more than the Spectrum and Commodore 64, unfortunately. We'll come on to that later. But the vast majority of it is here, if in a very stripped down and cut down version. But anyway, here's the first end of level boss. Get my two Arthurs. And there we go. Now things start getting a bit. Sprites do get quite flickery at times, especially with my like clone behind me. But with the cloned Arthur there, with the knife weapon, that boss is quickly defeated, and he does need to be defeated rather quickly. This is one tough game. Both Ghosts'N Goblins and Ghouls N Ghosts in the arcade were notorious for being extremely difficult. And the conversions to the Amstrad, well, Ghosts'N Goblins was very hard as well, but only had 3 levels. This does have 5 levels, just missing the final sort of confrontation, which I think was Lucifer's chamber in the arcade. And this is very difficult, especially this section here. Takes a lot of concentrating and taking your time. I've done this without losing a life and losing my armour. It makes it a lot easier to run through the knife weapon and your super armour. So I've done this sort of level by level, if I'm being honest with you. But it is possible, just take your time. Now we haven't really got sort of proper scrolling on the go here, guys. It's pretty much similar to the Ghosts'N Goblins conversion scrolling, which Larry Bundy Jr. commented on my last video. He describes it as push flip screen scrolling, or push flick screen scrolling, sorry. And I think that's a good description. It does scroll smoothly, but only when it gets towards the end of the screen. And I think it may be using the same CRTC trick, which is basically the CRTC is basically Amstrad's graphic chip, I suppose, in simple terms. And I think it may be using the same technique, and it just about gets away with it, really. Although it was better implemented on Ghouls N Goblins, which came out in 1985. So, but yeah, not too bad. This section is quite annoying. Some sections of the floor open and you can fall down to your death. Don't go into sort of the crevice there of the sand. There's a nasty sort of earwig creature waiting to pop out and kill you. Just follow my route and jumps there. Starting to run low on time here. But did you just notice there that the clock changed from about 40 seconds to 3 minutes? I wonder if that was like a halfway point in the level or something. I don't know why that happened. Also, I'm not sure this will come out in the final sort of compressed video that gets uploaded to YouTube and further compressed, but there are some sort of sprite flickering issues, sprites disappearing and things like that. It does at times look very, very amateurish. I don't know if that'll be any worse when sort of YouTube has butchered it in their compression, but perhaps not so bad on the playing the real version on a real Amstrad, but there's still a lot of sprite flicker and disappearing sprites and stuff. There are also a couple of major bugs in the game as well, where basically a couple of the boss encounters don't get triggered under certain circumstances I'm not quite sure of. I think that's the flame weapon there, by the way. Thankfully I've avoided that happening, but it's happened quite a few times practicing the game. It's very annoying, and overall it's a rather unprofessional product, I feel. That may be a bit harsh on the programmer. It instead feels rather rushed. That there wasn't much time, love, care and attention spent on the Amstrad version. It was probably the last in line after the Commodore 64 and then the Spectrum ports. And it feels rather rushed and finished and untidy, with sort of, like I mentioned before, flickering sprites and a couple of nasty bugs. And that's the end of the second level there, and that fight the boss. But I will say, in its defence, in the programmer's defence first of all, Dean Belfield, he did a really good job on Sly Spy Secret Agent. I really quite like that conversion. The arcade original wasn't much cop, and I suppose compared to other games, Sly Spy on the Amstrad isn't as isn't the best game in the world, but he did a really good job on that. And so I guess he was probably rushed by US Gold and not given much time. But at least he didn't sort of like port the specky version and end up with some really horrible graphics and a slower game. To his credit, the sprites move really nice, fast and smoothly, and fluidly as well. And the animation's pretty decent in places as well. Although the sprite design and basically the backgrounds and stuff are pretty childish and basic, really. That really lets the side down. But the gameplay is the important thing, and controls are nice, tight and responsive. And it plays an okay game of Ghouls N Ghosts, if in a very, very stripped down and bare and basic version. In some ways it's probably better than the Ghosts N Goblins conversion, but I actually prefer Ghosts N Goblins because it just had so much more atmosphere. The graphics were better, and that was even designed in 1985, like less than a year after the Amstrad actually was released. And the music was just simply awesome. Now Tim Follin's music was really, really good on the title screen, also on the Game Over Continue screen, and also the high score entry table as well. Some excellent music. I just wish it could have been put in game. Maybe there was enough memory, but perhaps it could have detected if it was 128k of memory rather than 64k and put the music in game. I'm sure it would have worked. Here's where the first bug sometimes gets triggered. So you see the red rocks there? If they're not entirely filled in, then there's some kind of graphical glitch, which means the boss won't appear on this level. So unless you've seen the red rocks exactly as they are there, then this boss here won't appear. But the trick to defeat him, because he's an absolute swine, is triggering him off on that screen and then move off to the left, and hopefully he will be circling in the right place to sort of slightly reappear, and you can safely kill him. As one tough boss normally, you won't be. I would really struggle being on the same screen as you're supposed to be on the same screen. Supposed to be attacking him or whatever. But that's my top tip there to defeat the level 2 boss. We don't want the spear back. We want to keep the small knives. So all you need to do is just move off the screen and come back again, and yeah, it will have disappeared. Got a small knife weapon there anyway. That was tight. Sometimes generous on the collision detection, but it's pretty much spot on. But if you do get close to other sprites, you can see a nasty sort of black box around them. Just very untidy. It just needed a lot more care and attention put on the game. But again, that may not have been a programmer's fault. It could have been the US Gold restrictions telling them to get the game out quickly, which was typical of US Gold. I think they're a crap company with mostly crap games. One or two exceptions here and there, and they were one of the major retailers of and publishers of 8-bit games in the UK at the time. I just thought I'd show you actually if you get caught by the magician you turn into a duck. I did do that on purpose. The same guys who programmed and did this game and did the graphics and music also did LED Storm, LED Storm for US Gold. I don't think that was a particularly good game though. I haven't looked at that yet. I might do at some point. It's just like basically a top-down racing game. It's an arcade conversion. They also did Gauntlet 3, the final quest. It's kind of a nasty two-colour isometric game. Nothing like the top-down Gauntlet 1 and 2 originals. It didn't sell very well. I think I've only played it briefly and got bored very quickly. Oh well, here's the level 4 boss. And not too hard to defeat at all, this one actually. Just watch out for these like little slug things that sort of creep up to the surface. I believe this is like some kind of sea creature we're supposed to be on the back of, like a giant whale or something. I don't know. Just got to destroy all these orange and purpley things sticking out his holes. Was he a giant seal? Was it a giant whale? Who knows? Well, essentially guys, this is the final level, which in the arcade was Lucifer's castle. Watch out for the gargoyles. They're not as evil in this conversion compared to Ghosts'N Goblins conversion. Just take your time. There you go. I mentioned there was a couple of bugs in the game. This is the second bug. It sort of appears in this level at the two floating heads. Oh, there's a really nasty platform jump there. You have to be sort of like pixel perfect, and it looks like your feet are off the edge as well of the platform when you jump, just because of how it's shadowed. That's a tad annoying. See? Oh, well, there we go. Oops. And you've got to be exactly in the middle of the ladder to be able to climb up it as well. Bit annoying. But definitely the knife weapon, and if you've got the super armour, that's the way to go throughout this game. So quick to dispatch enemies. Now I think we're probably getting towards the halfway point of this level. But I think I'll just sum up for a bit of a review here. It's well programmed, but given more time, a lot of the unprofessionalness could have been ironed out of for flickering sprites, disappearing sprites, and bugs. And here's sometimes where the second bug occurs of the floating heads. I think the only way to make sure that doesn't happen is attack the left head first without scrolling off to the right before climbing up the ladder. Make sure you haven't scrolled to the right, and then go for the left head first, and then that's fine as long as the barrier appears and gets destroyed on the second head encounter. Then you'll be fine. Otherwise, you'll just go throughout this entire level without seeing any boss and being unable to complete it. So a couple of Satans there to defeat. But yes, summary review. The Amstrad version is the worst out of the 8-bit versions. I'll tell you that now. The Spectrum version and Commodore 64 versions miles better. It's still okay and passable, but it looks at times very amateurish with the flickering and disappearing sprites, bugs and other things. Very poor graphics indeed. In many ways it improves on Ghosts'N Goblins, and other ways it's a downhill. So 7.5 out of 10, same score as Ghosts'N Goblins from me. And this is the final boss, guys. And there we go, pretty easily done. Well done, Arthur, you have defeated the evil Lucifer and rescued the Princess Prin Prin. There you go. 7.5 out of 10 from me. Happy Halloween. I'm going to leave this here and let you enjoy the music on the high score table, and then the title screen in full from the excellent Tim Follin. But thanks for watching, guys. See you soon. Cheers. Goodbye.